You were listening to episode 274 of Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
Didn't even read the preview, so I wasn't expecting that. So I was like, what's he doing? So this week we're playing Tailspin on the NES. We were originally going to play some Chippendale on the NES, but I don't have it. And then my Chippendale jokes went out the window in your intro.
I was so ready for that. John and Ryan, Game Deflators.
Yeah, so we'll dive into that in the inflation deflation segment this week. But first, you can find the Game Deflators podcast on thegamedeflators.com. You can find us on YouTube. Search up Game Deflators. Watch some unboxings, the like two that we have, as well as some little clips here and there. I keep forgetting, by the way, I got to start like recording clips for shorts on YouTube. I just always forget when I play over here. You can also find us on social media at Game Deflators, on X at The Game Deflators, on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. I got to post on Threads. I keep forgetting there too. Too much social media, Ryan.
Too much. That's why I stay away from it.
Yeah. Well, you should probably be on one of them, so I'm not doing all of them. And the other thing you could do is find us on the podcast application you're listening to right now. Like, subscribe, comment, leave us a 5-star review. Do whatever you need to do to support us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So, hey, this week we're going to be taking a look at some stuff. We got articles on the Xbox head sitting down to chat about multi-platform and the future of Xbox. There's still some rumors swirling around. Not everything was settled there. Maybe we're looking at a portable future for the Xbox as well. And then lastly, just as I'm getting started, Pal World devs tell everyone it's okay to take a break.
It's not okay. You got to keep playing Pal World, capture all of them.
Got to catch them all. Is that the tagline?
What? No, I don't think it's the tagline. It's you got to catch most of them. That's the tagline they use.
Get the majority of them.
Yes.
Please?
Catch pals. That's your tagline. Catch pals. All right. So for my weekly pickup, I got Bug Snacks on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah. I will say I was literally sitting in the bathroom, as most people do on their phone. And I was like, I don't have a pickup this week. And for whatever reason, I saw that Best Buy article. I was like, I wonder if Best Buy is actually selling games technically on their website still. Have they just wiped it completely? What's going on here? They're not selling in stores, and we'll get into that later as well. And I was like, well, Bug Snacks. I've been wanting that on PS5. Well, PS5 apparently is like $50-$60 for a new copy still. I guess it's hard to find. I don't know. So I figured, why not just go for the next level down, which is not PS4, and that is a copy on the Nintendo Switch. So I picked it up. I will be getting that on the 22nd. So it's a pickup technically, and then I will have it soon. So I'm excited. I've been wanting to play Bug Snacks for a long time, and I was hoping the price would go down here and there. And like GameStop doesn't even have copies on their website anymore. They have PS4 copies that you can't find anywhere, and eBay's got them like $60 a pop. There's a website that sells a new copy for $40, but I was like, I'll just pay $30 on Best Buy, have it delivered to my house, and call it a day. So
there you go. Yeah, Bug Snacks is a weird one. That was like a launch title, I think, for
it was 2020
Xbox.
Yeah, 2020. No, it was just on PS5, and I guess it got ported to Nintendo Switch at some point.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure the performance is absolute garbage on the Switch compared to the PS5, but whatever. Like, if I don't have anything to compare it to, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's supposed to be pretty like fun though.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump in on it and see how it goes. So, and then as far as what I'm currently playing, I continued to play some Tales of Symphonia. I don't remember if I'd mentioned that I beat the like that wind shrine or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of where you were at last.
Yeah. So I beat that, and then I went ahead and took care of the ninja girl as well and her enemy, or like her companion thing that's with her. That God, I forget. Like I leveled up. Obviously, that was the key thing for me, was leveling up. The other component is what we talked about: pressing down R3, allowing me to do like the giant move that would take a lot of
Yeah,
damage
the
off.
Unity attack.
Yeah, I did a Unity attack that ended up working, and then I had plenty of items on me, of course, and then I also made sure to heal all of my characters. So the first time I died against her, it's because I just gotten out of battle and I wasn't expecting to come face to face with another boss battle.
It's like when your rival runs into you and you're on a Nuzlocke run, it's just like the end.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, this sucks. So yeah, kind of the same deal. So yeah, that's where I got with that, and then I made my way back to the Tower of Mana or whatever it is. I get there and it's like, it's locked. I'm like, it was locked last time. I thought I had to just go right there. Well, it turns out you got to go back to Asgard, talk to some random person, then go back to this other city, and then go to the Tower of Mana where you can unlock it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was falling. What's that?
More going.
Yeah, I was falling asleep while like getting to Asgard. So I was like, and safe. And we're going to continue from there. So I might play it tonight unless you and I play Power World. We'll see.
We'll see.
So, and then obviously I'm still playing Power World. I ended up destroying one of my little bases, which was like straight up ingots is what I was trying to make there. We were mining ore, getting a ton of it.
How many bases do you have?
How much? What bases?
I
have 2. I only have enough for 2 right now.
You can only have like 4.
Yeah, so I've got 2 right now. I've got my main base that we created a long time ago, but it's not exactly in an area of any sort of resources. So that's the next one to get blown up. And then I have another one that we created on top of this like giant mountain plateau that has like coal and ore and trees everywhere, which is good for that. I can create stone with like a stone pit that they can mine from. And then I'm making like this giant base that kind of wraps around it all. But I'm trying to figure out that component, and I'm in the middle of building it. And so it's like having to transport a crap ton of stone because there's no stone in that base right now. So the whole concept is like build stone walls and make it huge, but I don't have enough stone to really do that. So I'm like back and forth going from one base to the other to grab stone. But yeah, so that's working out pretty well, capturing lots of I ended up figuring out like the best way to level up in that game is to just catch as many like pals as you can. So once you hit like 10 pals, you get like X amount of experience as you do it. But then once you hit 10, you get extra experience. But there's a mount that you can get. It's like a wolf mount, and you're able to throw you can do attacks, and you can throw your pal spheres while you're on the mount. And then you actually like give it a low level attack as well. And then you chase around like level 2 and level 3 enemies while you're on this mount. And you deal X amount of damage, and you just 100% throw every time. And you just watch as your experience like shoots through the roof. So I went from, it was like level 22 to level 30 in the span of like an hour.
Nice.
Doing that. Yeah. So I was playing that. And then my wife and I are still playing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. We are on chapter 9 on that one. Still learning a lot as we play through the game. So some guns have elements that I never really considered in the past. And some enemies fare worse against element attacks than others. So we ended up finding like...
It's like the whole thing of Borderlands.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I never played Borderlands. So we're learning as we go. So yeah, we had this one boss. We couldn't beat him. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is just super difficult. Turned out if you use lightning against him, he can die pretty quick. So I got a lightning magic thing and equipped it. And then I had a gun that did fire damage and pretty much demolished him. But now we're in this thing where like every time we beat a big area, we end up in another area that's like 2-3 levels higher than what we are. So we're kind of in this like rut of like, okay, now we got to go do some side quests. And then we got to go do this main quest as well, which kind of sucks. Like when it comes to side quests, you almost wish like side quests are like truly side quests. You're doing them for fun, right? I'm doing them for grinding because we're too low of a level to progress through the main quest, despite the fact that we've killed every enemy. We've done everything we need to do within the main quests, and we've done some side quests here and there. But I don't feel like there should be this expectation when you're playing a game that you have to do the side quests as well to kind of compensate for the fact that the main quest isn't progressing you at a fast enough rate to go through the game at an appropriate level of speed. So like we're on the 9th out of 11 chapters. Chapter 11 is the epilogue. So I think we'll have a beat here in the next week or so. That's kind of what I'm estimating. And then we'll just see what she wants to play from there.
Yeah, Borderlands has always been like a game where you do a ton of the side quests in them.
Yeah. And then the last thing is I'm still playing around with my Magic cards. I've gotten, so I guess this could count as pickups too, actually. I've been picking up binders, like 1.5 inch binders. And then, like you said, the black sleeves we talked about last week,
Mm-hmm.
and just currently organizing all of my rares. So I'm going through binders of rares, boxes of rares, pulling out copies of 4, putting everything that's in excess to the side, and then plugging them away into binders, not in like true alphabetical order, just kind of like, oh, this is a section for A's and B's and C's, and just kind of go on. I figured I'd make things a little easier for me. And then from there, I got to continue going through the giant boxes of 5,000 count boxes and removing excess from there. And then the last thing on Magic is I played this Friday at my house, actually.
Oh,
A couple of guys that go to a shop down by me. We ended up, we're in a text group, basically similar to what we have for our group for Magic and drafting. And one of the guys like, hey, I'm not going to make it this week. Another guy, he said he's working every Friday this month. So told the other 2 guys, I'm like, hey, come on over. We'll play some Commander. We'll do some, just some general casual games and go from there.
mm-hmm.
Had a lot of fun with that Commander game, except for the fact it was 2 damn hours.
See, that's the
3
thing
people.
that scares me about Commander is it's just like, it seems like such a fun format, but it's just like, I know that it can just take forever. And I'm kind of like, I dig Magic, but Magic and me aren't like Magic and me back in the day where I could just sit down and play Magic for hours. Magic is now like bowling. Like I get in like 2 good games and then it's questionable after that. Like not really there all night. And like usually when we draft or you go to a draft or something, I mean, you take an hour to draft and build your deck, and then you're playing, and that's like, what, 3 50-minute rounds or something.
Yep.
And so it's like 11, and you're starting at like 4, so it's like, or not 4, at like 7, so it's like 4 hours that you're there doing it, and it's like, that's enough Magic. But if all of that was just like one game, or like 1.5 games of Commander, that's brutal.
Yeah, and so like when I've talked to a few guys about like, hey, come on over, I've got casual decks and Commander decks. I don't mind playing Commander if that's like the set, and we're just gonna be like, that's what we're playing, and we know it's gonna take 3-4 hours to play a one match, but I want to get more out of it, right? So like I like the idea of a bunch of random casual decks, 60 cards, tribal decks. Like I've been trying to make tribal decks that way. Like when we can get together and say, you're playing Kifkin, you're playing Goblins, you're playing this, and we can all just have like decks to play and have like one-off matches. And they're like, oh, hey, Ryan, I want to try out that deck that you were just playing. You want to swap with me? And like, that type of deal. But Commander, I had fun. I won my match, but it was literally 2 hours of one match. And so one guy was playing a black Warhammer deck, which was pretty cool to see that in action. I was playing a Commander 19 deck that focuses on pulling instants and sorceries out of your graveyard to create tokens and then destroy the board and control. And then another guy was playing an Orcs Amass type deck from Lord of the Rings. And we all played precons. We didn't play any upgrades or anything like that. So as the decks were built and meant to be. And it was fun, dude. Like the guy that had the Lord of the Rings deck, he played a card that took all of my tokens and a couple of it, like anything mana costs 3 or less. He took them on his side of the field. What he didn't realize is I had a card in my hand that would deal 2 damage to everything on the field, wiping out those tokens. And then I had the ability to take his token stealing thing in his deck, and I removed it from the game. And then my commander allowed me to basically copy a spell from the graveyard. So I had a spell in my graveyard that said, if it's cast from a graveyard, I create 10 1/1 white knight tokens. And I was able to copy it. So I had 20 tokens on the field.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was kind of disgusting. And then at that point, it was just a matter of like killing things on his side of the field and then taking stuff, copying things, and just making a shit ton of tokens so that I could just have chunk blockers and just swing in with flying as well because I had flyers. So it was interesting. And then, of course, the Warhammer deck, it just never got popping. Like it's a good deck and we could see where it would be nasty. But every time something nasty hit the board, we're like, board wipe every single time.
I was running into that. I was playing Drew like a few months ago, I think it was now. He came over and we were just playing some Commander, and I was using my Warhammer deck, and I couldn't get anything to really happen.
Yeah.
And I think he killed my Commander like 6 times.
Yeah, my Commander didn't die because he couldn't be dealt damage actually. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah,
And
that is
then
nice.
I had another legendary creature that allowed me to dictate who attacked who on the
Mhm.
board. So it's like, you're not going to attack me. So, and you know, you don't want to attack his dad and knock his dad so out of a game quickly. So basically, I was able to survive because I changed the rotation on who could
Yeah.
attack who, essentially. So his dad was swinging at me, but he couldn't do anything because I had blockers. And then
Mhm.
he couldn't hit me with his 23 orc. And he didn't want to swing at his
Gotcha.
dad because his dad had death touches on the field. So like we were in a
Yeah.
standstill until I just kind of like took over. And then we played some standard multiplayer, just like a one-off. I played with my caves deck. One of them played a black-red. The other played like a white-black deck. And so my caves, of course, absolutely demolished. It was so sad to see the look on their face when I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wipe the board. And then I'm going to bring back my board wipe. And then next turn, I'll wipe the board again. And
Yeah.
just kept going with it. They were like, well, this sucks.
This is over.
Yeah. So we had some fun, though. It was good.
Nice.
All right. Passing to you.
So speaking of pass, I upgraded my Game Pass this week. It
Nice.
took a little bit of thinking, but I canceled some other stuff and moved some things around. I don't know. I was cheaping out on the Game Pass for a long time because I don't really play online games like multiplayer stuff. Like we were talking, I played Apex Legends all the time. I just had my 3-year anniversary at work, and I literally stopped playing Apex Legends like when I started training for that job. So it's like been that long since I've really played online multiplayer, except for like, I guess that splash of Halo that I played for like a week when it came out.
Yeah.
But it's just not been something I felt I needed. And there's been a lot of games that I haven't been able to play on Game Pass. Like I wanted to at least check out and talk about Exoprimal a little bit when that was coming out, because it just looked so bizarre. But couldn't because I didn't have the right Game Pass subscription for it. So, missed out on Pal World a couple weeks ago. But now that I've got this, I'm going to get Pal World. I'm going to join John and Justin and see what their world is all about and do some of that. So that'll be fun. I also ran it on my iPad. It works great. I can do the cloud streaming on my Samsung TV downstairs. So now I don't have to like move my Xbox all over the house if I want to play different stuff either in other rooms.
Nice.
So that's pretty convenient too. I am excited about checking out more things on Game Pass, and I've had a lot of fun this year, really trying a bunch of different stuff. But I have been trying to stick with Persona 3 just to see how far I can go in it. I haven't made it very far at all. I mean, the last couple of weeks I've sat down to kind of try to play, but then I pull up my phone and I start looking up like tips and guides, and I don't want to just sit down and follow a guide. I talked about this a bit last week, I'm pretty sure. But this week I sat down, and this is just like the stress that this game gives me. And I know I don't have to play it this way, but sometimes you're going to just try to optimize because that's how you do. So I started up a day and I was like, okay, what am I going to do today? Oh, I can go hang out with this girl. So I go to talk to her and it's like, oh, I don't have my like a card that I can get a bonus from her. Like I don't have a persona that's aligned with her. So then I spent like the next so I had done a whole bunch of stuff before I got to her. Like I finished the night before, I went shopping, I did a whole bunch of things. And then when I got to her, I didn't have the card. So I restarted back to where I was. And this time I didn't buy any of the stuff, and I instead spent like 20 minutes looking at this chart trying to figure out, okay, if I fused these two personas that I do have access to, I could make this type of persona, and then I could use that and I could fuse it with this type of persona, and then I could make a persona that would work with her. So it's like I had to do all this like work and looking at charts and redoing a day like 3 times. So it took me, almost an hour to progress 5 minutes in the game.
Jeez.
Because I just got so like, I want to try to do this optimally, even though I don't have to. So like, I just keep getting this pressure with the game. I'm going to keep trying to push through and maybe not have all that, but early game, if you want to try to maximize your stats and stuff as much as you can and get the most out of everything. Like, you really have a lot of kind of extra outside things that you need to look at in order to kind of get there. So I'm trying to be, I don't know. I'm just trying to get the most out of this game while I'm actually going to play it, because odds are I'm never going to finish it.
I mean, that's, it wouldn't be Ryan on the Game Deflators if you were finishing games. I mean, that's just not how it works here.
Of course not.
I mean, that's why Game Pass is so good for you, man.
Exactly.
It's just like, I'll play a game for a few hours, I'll get what I want out of it, and move on to the next. And you're just all about that's one of the better things about this podcast too, is that you just get to try out a massive amount of games for like,
well, there's also those times in the past where it's like, what'd you do this week, Ryan? Well, I certainly didn't buy or play any games, if that's what you're asking, John.
Well, I mean, technically with Game Pass, you could pick up a new game every week.
Yeah, I could.
It's
for the sake of talking about downloading a button.
I mean, it works. That's part of it. That's your recent pickup. Mm-hmm. So it makes complete sense to do that.
Complete and total sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into something here in which people aren't going to be picking up anything anymore, and that's from Best Buy. So our little discussion topic here. Best Buy, from what I've seen online and various photos, is finally starting to move out physical media on their store shelves. So no more video games in Best Buy, no more DVDs, Blu-rays. I think DVDs was phased out a long time ago, but still, no more DVDs. I don't even think they've sold CDs for years, but you can't get those either. So yeah, you want to go into Best Buy and browse, you're screwed.
I remember like when you went to Best Buy in the past, like the whole middle area was just rows of DVDs, and CDs, and video games and all that stuff. And now it's like Google Homes and Apple Watches and smartphones and audio stuff. And the camera thing is not just like a big giant camera boat anymore. It's like an aisle and a half or something. Like, they've really changed the way that it lays out. And I just like, Best Buy was always my favorite store when I was a kid. Like, one of my most memorable like gaming pickups ever was Paper Mario. I was so stoked for Paper Mario. I went with my mom to go pick it up. We went to the Best Buy. I had the box. She went like shoe shopping or something crazy to do to a child after they just pick up a game. So then like I had to stare a hole through the box and just like read the manual, until we got home and I could plug it in and play. But it was like going to Best Buy and getting that thing. Like, I always wanted a Best Buy gift card for Christmas or my birthday because I could go get a game. And like, then it kind of fell out for a while. Like, I just felt like, I'll just go to GameStop. Like, why would I go to Best Buy? There's like almost never anything there I want. And now it's just like, I'll maybe go to Best Buy, like if I really need something.
I have no intentions of walking in a Best Buy again unless it's to buy like a TV or a monitor. Yeah. Like, that's the only reason I'd go nowadays. And even that, I could just get online through a website. Like, I don't have to actually go shop physically for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm right there with you, dude. Especially like, I could totally resonate with the mom thing. I remember when I would buy like a CD at Best Buy, or I would go buy a video game, and we're in the car. My mom's like, all right, we got to go to the grocery store. I'm like, no, why are we doing that? Yeah. And of course it was like an hour and a half trip. And then it was when you get home, all right, I need your help unloading the groceries. God damn it.
You know what you're doing to me, Mom. God.
I don't know if it was on purpose or it was just didn't care, or just didn't consider it. But yeah, that always sucked when you get that brand new game or CD and you really want to dive into it and you can't.
So dude, your kid is going to be so lucky. Like, I couldn't imagine being a kid and just like literally having thousands of games that I've never played just lying around the house.
It's so pathetic.
Like, the anticipation of having to go get a new game.
Yeah, right. Like,
non-existent. And I mean, he won't be able to go get one in stores anyways. He'll have to download anything he wants to play.
Those memes of it's like, I want McDonald's. No, we have McDonald's at home. Yeah. Well, like, I want a video game. We have video games at home.
We have Mario at home.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. We do. You're right. We do have Mario at home. There's no complaints that'll be happening from that. But I mean, honestly, when he's old enough to do that, there's not going to be any, let me go buy a game from.
Dad, I want Fortnite 5.
Why would they even make a Fortnite 5?
Because the last
Hopefully,
4 is good.
hopefully when he's old enough, Fortnite is gone from existence and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Same with those other games. But that said, I mean, he's going to, if he goes, like if he enjoys video games growing up, which I'm sure he will just because I play them all the time.
Sure.
I have to say this too before we dive into the discussion. He's gotten into hockey actually with us because we watch hockey every other night when the game is on. And so he's gotten accustomed to whenever a goal is scored, we're like, yeah, because a goal is scored. And so he'll sit there and he's eating his dinner. And the second a goal goes in and the announcer's like, he scores, he just raises his arms up and goes, yeah.
Nice.
So it's hilarious. Like, so he's picking things up. And, obviously I hope he enjoys hockey growing up and other sports. And then, of course, video games and building Lego and that type of stuff. So he's set. Like, if he enjoys those things as he starts to grow up, then he's like golden. If he doesn't, well, then I'm sorry. You're just going to have to stare at a wall of games your whole life.
I'm sorry, Father. It's knitting for me or nothing.
I want to go do dance. Well, shit.
No more physical media at Best Buy.
Okay, so I'll give my Best Buy story here. For me, it was always picking up like obscure anime.
Yeah.
So like I picked up the Neon Genesis Evangelion box set at a Best Buy for like $100 a long time ago. I would pick up like random ADV DVDs, things that you can't like after after ADV like disappeared, and a lot of those things, I think they went to Funimation if I recall. There's a lot of anime that you can't find like anywhere digitally.
Yeah.
Like they just don't have it. So like I've got one called Devil Lady, for example. It's pretty good anime. And I think the DVDs run like $150, $200.
Yeah.
Last I checked. I mean, unless it's gone down and there's pirated versions now, but there's a lot of those things that you cannot come across nowadays. And
I don't have a lot of anime DVDs. A lot of the ones I do have, though, I got from Atomic Comics back in the day. And I guess they're all like some kind of bootleg from Japan because and they all have varying different levels of quality. Like some of my early Naruto box sets are actually like pretty nice looking. But yeah, none of them have SKUs. Like we tried to sell them to Bookmans and they were like, we can't take these.
Yeah, like FYE still technically has anime and stuff, like the FYE out in Arizona Mills. I don't know if there's another one in the state or in our area.
Yeah, they opened one at
Wait, they opened one?
Mall. Yeah.
They opened an FYE.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
Okay. Well, at least there's one closer now. But yeah, that's a store, and they're always overpriced though for a lot of their stuff.
Bookmans and used places are really the best place to like find something interesting
and then not want to buy it because they have it at some ridiculous price point.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what it is. Like I got my Fooly Cooley box set there a few years ago. I mean, that's only like one DVD of 5 episodes, so there's only so much you could charge for it, but like that's my favorite anime ever, so I definitely had to get that when I found it.
But, if you're listening, you can kind of understand where Ryan and I are coming from. Like this, while we're not talking a ton about like, oh, Best Buys are moving and what does this mean for their company? It's more so the aspect of like, we're going to miss that experience, being able to go in, explore, find things, come home with it. Like we're not going to get that anymore, right? What are they going to fill that spot with? Probably more Apple Watches or TVs, or like they sell washing machines there, for God's sake. Yeah. So like, they're going to find something to fill that empty space, but it's going to leave us with an empty space now, not being able to shop there. And that was the only reason I ever went to Best Buy. If there was one nearby, I was like, I want to browse their games. I want to browse like their computer parts that they have. Yeah. Now that's gone. I'm not going to be doing that.
I wonder how much of this does relate to kind of that experience. Like if we didn't have those motivations and those stories, like as a kid, like would we still go to GameStop to buy our games when they're coming out? Or would we be more inclined just to pre-order and, wait for day one Amazon shipping? Like I'm sure that there's probably a lot of kids who do go to the store and buy video games and stuff, but I'm sure there's probably a lot more that don't.
Well, it's a convenience aspect nowadays. I mean, when you have the ability to just buy these things and not leave your house, are you really going to, like for me, especially like where I'm at, the closest GameStop for me is 30 minutes away. Like I'm not going to drive 30 minutes to go get a game, plus I've got the kid. Uh-huh.
You do.
Okay, it depends on the game.
You tell
And it
us
depends
stories
on,
all the time about you going
okay,
to GameStop to pick up
that's
things.
that's different. That's like situations where I could only pick it up in store and it's like $100-something video game and I'm getting it for $20. Like that's a different aspect of it. Like to pick up a day one purchase that I can get like
When you
at
hardly do
Target.
that anymore.
Yeah,
Neither of us really do.
yeah. I mean, well, we have so many other responsibilities nowadays that we just don't. Like I'm trying to make a point to buy a video game every now and then because I haven't. And yeah, that's just kind of where things have
All
been. It's
magic cards makes John a dull boy.
right now it's been all magic cards. A lot of it's just I'm trying to organize it. And my next thing is I'm going to be selling uh, a lot of the game. Like I have games still sitting on my floor. Like I've got a
Yeah.
Conker's Bad Fur Day and a Chrono Trigger and a, King of Dragons and other copies. Like I've got like a couple grand of games sitting on my floor that I just haven't listed.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to just sell them so I can buy magic cards.
Yeah.
Or I can buy other games.
More reserve list cards.
More reserve list cards. Yeah, the reserve list is definitely something to consider buying more of as I sell some of those games, the extras. And I mean, my wife's going to be listening to this episode at some point in time. And so she should know that it takes up less space for one card versus one video game.
True that.
And if I sell 5 video games to buy one card, then that's even less space.
Oh, dude, that's like 1,000 more cards easy.
No. Yeah, reserve list cards are pricey. All right, let's dive into our non-Best Buy topic. So the first thing here is Microsoft. 4 Xbox exclusive games are coming to PS5 and Nintendo Switch. This is Tom Warren at The Verge. So I'll let you kick it off because you've got the names of the games in your notes.
So I watched the actual event this week, if you want to call it that. It was really just a podcast. It kind of seemed like a lot of a nothing burger at first compared to all of the hype and rumor and everything around it. They really didn't confirm and, say a whole lot. So all the game titles are still just speculation. I get it. These studios have their own launch plans. And technically, I've heard other people put it this way. These are games that are going to be coming out on a different platform. So it's really not Xbox's place to say what the games are and announce those things when it's really more between the studios and that new platform that it's going to be on, if it's PS5 or Switch or both. But speculation is, they said, 2 community driven games and 2 smaller titles. So looking at most likely Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. Sea of Thieves, huge multiplayer. Grounded, multiplayer. Don't really hear many people talking about that one. But Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment are both really well received, well reviewed games. But just getting these in the hands of more players is going to do a lot of good for those online live service titles. And it's really going to just get great games in the hands of more players by putting Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment out there. So, Phil Spencer and the other higher ups here bring up a lot of good points of, the future of exclusivity and the power of exclusivity. And, it's just not really what the age that we're in now is all about. And it's certainly not where things are going. So they're really trying to be very forward thinking here. And, we've touched on this, and I'm sure you've probably heard other people talk about this, but like, Microsoft is such a big publisher now that just to get those games out there onto other platforms is going to really secure them a stake in the future to continue to be a really big publisher. Whereas if they try to hold all that stuff in just to themselves, it's not really going to drive people to the Xbox. It's not really going to push them to where they want to be. And, it's not going to get them in the good graces or get them out there in front of other players and more players in the future, the way that they can really position by taking this approach.
Yeah, and the point you made regarding exclusivity and the direction that they see it going, he actually says on a podcast, I do have a fundamental belief that over the next 5 or 10 years, exclusive games that are exclusive to one piece of hardware, are going to be a smaller and smaller part of the games industry. So, I think this is more of Microsoft trying to do a forcing function in the games industry. of saying, we're this massive publisher. We're going to be sharing all of our content across various platforms. Hey, Sony, we know that you're not, that God of War isn't selling as high as it was, 6 months ago or a year ago. Why don't you bring it over to Xbox, right? You're already doing it on PC. Bring it over to Xbox, like just get more hands on it. But I can, another point that you made here too, and it's really like the Xbox fans in general and the negativity that they're kind of stating is that with Microsoft going more multi-platform with these titles, it actually is probably going to have more of a detrimental effect on the hardware, and that people are going to start steering away from buying an Xbox because why? Why buy an Xbox when, let's just say, PlayStation or Nintendo continues to do exclusives and Xbox is multi-platform because they're invested so heavily in all of these different, developers and IPs and trying to justify the cost. Plus, with a low console adoption rate as is, um, I think it actually does steer people away from buying an Xbox. I don't think it pushes them towards that brand. I think it pushes them towards things like Game Pass, which is fine. But one of the reasons that they are having to even do this to begin with, and it's been cited, is that Game Pass subscriptions have slowed down. So they have to do something to boost more gaming revenue, and this is it. So I I think in general, this isn't a play that Xbox or Microsoft like really wanted to take in moving those games to be multi-platform, but they've kind of been forced to do it and are hoping that by forcing that
Well,
into the industry, others will kind of follow suit. And I just don't see that happening.
I don't think they're trying to trend set here with this. I think this is really just more of an experiment to see, and that's kind of how they're laying it out here. They're choosing these 4 games specifically so that they can get some research and see what it does. I mean, if they put it out there and with the huge amount of adoption of Switch users and PS5 users in comparison, I mean, if they really get some good numbers from these titles, then they'll start looking at, okay, what if we do move Starfield over? Or what if we do put Indiana Jones on these other consoles too? Like, can we really boost our revenue that way? So I think it's really more so of a testing bed for them. I don't think that there's any chance that Nintendo is going to start moving their games over anywhere. Sony's already starting to dabble. They've got a little bit of action on the PC, and that's getting quicker and quicker.
Well, they just had a day one release of Helldivers 2,
Yeah, exactly.
and
So
that's actually doing really well.
yeah, so I mean that's a great test case for them in that department to do their own day and day launch on PC. So if Microsoft is going to look at maybe just timed exclusivity in the future, hey, you can play it first, you can play it best on Xbox, second best on iCloud, third best, you can wait a year and get like the Game of the Year edition on Switch or PlayStation. So it's like they'll really have like, 2 or 3 shots at the apple before you're even looking at buying it on another platform. And then they did talk about consoles a bit in here, saying that it is still really important to them. We already know that they've got a mid-gen refresh lined up. Not exactly sure of the details on that, but they did leak all that stuff during the court cases when they were trying to purchase Activision Blizzard, and things got kind of released outside. So we saw that adorably all digital future with that mid-gen refresh. So we'll see when that comes. But they are saying, or did say, that the next generation they're expecting to provide the largest leap in console generations. So I mean it's a pretty bold statement going from the Super Nintendo to the N64. Like, I would say that's probably the biggest leap, but moving forward from there, where we're at now, I mean, I guess like 8K gaming or something, but that's just going to be so expensive, and like nobody has TVs for that. There's no other media being produced in that you would be getting. And I guess
Ah,
this is kind of another thing too, like with the future of like streaming and stuff, this is all going to be, bananas on your data and your bandwidth and stuff. And going back to not being able to buy physical media, you're not even
yeah.
going to be able to get like hard copies of any of
Yeah,
this.
your internet's going to go up in price. Your TV's going to go up in price. Your game console, the fact that you're spending money on a monthly basis to even stream these games, yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. So, it might get to a point where I'm just like, yep, PC. Like that's it.
Mhm.
I'll buy my games on PC. And it sucks because I don't want to go like completely digital. But we talked about a while back, right? Like if all games went digital and that was the only choice you had, I would probably honestly start diving more into my backlog of games and physical media and playing that more so than jumping on the PC. I mean, that's kind of what I do anyways. The only reason I'm playing
Yeah,
Power World is because I want to play Power World and I'd
it's
look
just the
forward to it for a
hotness.
while. Yeah. So, well, continuing to talk on Xbox, a portable Xbox could be coming. And here's how Microsoft could set it apart from other handheld gaming PCs. So this is tomsguide.com. I actually use Tom's Guide for a lot of things when I'm doing PC research. And it is Anthony Spadafora is the writer here. Um, so I'll just kind of kick this off really quick with if you kind of look at the landscape today for handheld gaming, it amazes me. We went like 15 years, I would say like 2007 to like 2020, 2022, without like a true competitive handheld market. Like you had the 3DS and you kind of had, you could say the PlayStation Portable and Vita, but not really. Like it was truly just dominated by Nintendo.
Yeah,
Now we've got like Asus and Logitech, and you've got Steam, or Valve, I guess you would say, not Steam, Valve running Steam. You've got potentially Microsoft. You've got Switch with a handheld. You've
there's
got
that
Sony
Talon that
potentially.
was just announced, the ROG Ally.
Yeah, there's just so many different options now, and they're all expensive, by the way. Like I looked at the Asus one and the Logitech one, and they're like close to $700. Now it's a lot more affordable, I think, than like the Steam Deck.
The Steam Deck's one of the more affordable. I think that one's only
Is
like
it?
$5.99 or
Oh,
something.
okay, maybe that one is. But the cool thing is that the Steam Deck runs off of Linux,
Yeah.
whereas the others run off of Windows. And I know you did a little more research here on that in particular. So if you want to dive into that
Oh,
piece,
well, so they're talking here about how that's going to be something that could be a huge advantage, or is a huge advantage for the Steam Deck, because it runs on Linux and is more open. I don't know. It all works together better. But on the Windows side, Windows 11 isn't really optimized for this. So when you're trying to do all your Windows stuff and then you're trying to do all this stuff on top of it, I mean, this is where I get lost with a lot of computer gaming, because it's too many. Launch the game, fiddle with settings, go to forums, figure out why this is not doing this, and it's because it's all too individualized. But Microsoft, being the people who make Windows, really have an opportunity here to build the most ideal handheld platform to run off of Windows. And really, their best suggestion here is somehow dual booting off of that, having a Windows partition and then a partition for like the Xbox firmware itself. Um, and I think that makes sense. I guess I don't know exactly why you really need both. Like, I would feel like they would probably just optimize some version of Xbox and keep it more walled, rather than make it such an open source kind of third party thing where it's like, oh, here's like all the Windows stuff too. I guess you just, for competition and being able to have it more open, you could do that. But I guess my biggest takeaway is, yeah, if Microsoft wants to try to build a handheld gaming device, I mean, they really have the best opportunity to make the best one of anybody, because they've got all of the funding and everything that they've gone into building up this program. And if they're questioning having another full device for the next generation, or trying to do a dual like they did this generation, it would make a lot more sense to have a portable version and then a home console, rather than try to do a hybrid like the Switch, or do a top tier and then a lower tier like they've got with the Series X and S. So I think that would be a really smart move for Xbox. And we talked just last week about Sony maybe trying to get back into, portable as well. If they can't beat them at home, maybe they can beat them on the go.
Yeah. This all stemmed, by the way, from the podcast as well that we just talked about in a prior article. So while they were discussing, mid-gen refreshes, there is an Xbox codenamed Brooklyn right now. And so the idea here is that there might be a handheld, and it could be like the Xbox Series P, which would be, for portable. So your X is extreme, your S is standard, and then your P is portable. And really this is where I think there's a great opportunity for them from a branding standpoint to have the Xbox family, right? So you've got all of these different options. Oh, you want just standard? You want extreme gaming? You want portable gaming? We have all of these options and solutions for you as a gamer to, kind of whet your appetite. However, I do think it's a little late. We're already midway through this current generation. They're already talking next gen, like we're doing refreshes and then moving forward to next gen in probably 4 years, right? 3-4 years. So we're at a point where I don't know that introducing during a midlife period a portable console is the right approach. I more so see it as a, if it's Xbox portable, maybe it's this idea that it's not tied to like the series, the Xbox series, but it's tied as just an Xbox, right? So like every few years it's getting updated with next gen software or hardware, for a handheld gaming device. Like I can see something like that, but like tying it in, I don't know if it makes sense right now. It might make sense down the road though, after their refresh. I don't know. It seems like an odd period of time. Same with Sony. Like seems like a very odd period of time to create a handheld. However, I guess if they're trying to make it coincide with the Switch number 2, but whatever it's going to be called, and if that's a handheld console in some respect, like another hybrid, then I guess it could make a little sense to have like, if you're trying to compete with Nintendo, you kind of have to have that option on the table as well for people. So I don't know. A lot of it, I think, is going to be answered here in the next year or so.
Yeah, I think that if Microsoft and Sony are talking about doing a handheld, we're probably like 2 or 3 years away, through R&D and stuff before we would really see anything about that. So I think that,
maybe
that
not.
could be something that they could really stick it to Nintendo. Even like if Nintendo's doing, another full handheld for their next generation, like why wouldn't they? The Switch worked out super well. If you, as Microsoft and Sony, release an updated, more advanced, better handheld 3 years into the Switch 2's life cycle, that could take a lot of steam out of the second half of that Nintendo console's life cycle and give it to you.
Or it could fall flat.
Yeah.
Because of the adoption rate and people not wanting. So that's where I do think it might make a little sense to have it released prior, because it kind of takes the wind out of Nintendo sales. Like you'd almost have to release it.
Make it in the next 6 months before Nintendo launches their console.
Well, Nintendo's not launching anything in 6 months.
No, but we're going to see it.
We're going to see it, but it might not be for
next month, and it's going to come out by Christmas.
We'll see. It could be a 2025 release. It depends on how to switch.
We're just saying this week that it looks like it's probably going to wind up being Q1 2025. I think somebody was talking.
Yeah, I can see them releasing in like March of 2025. It depends on how Switch sales are going. If Switch sales are still going well, that's what Nintendo's kind of stated, right? Like they don't need to be pressured into releasing a console just to release it. If it's still selling well, and it's obviously selling at a higher margin, like they're making more money right now than they were before. So like if it's still selling millions of consoles, like why would you move to the next thing? Like I totally get it. There's no need to dive into your next generation if you're still selling well.
But you're not rushing 7 years in.
No.
But yeah, it looks like everybody was just reporting yesterday. It looks like there's a delay until early 2025.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe that, depending where sales are then, maybe it delays even further. I say play it by ear at this point. But that said, you had mentioned, Microsoft and Sony may not have anything right now. I would say R&D has probably been ongoing since the Steam Deck was released. they've probably been working on stuff like this for quite a while from a handheld perspective. So to coincide with the Switch release. So if the new Nintendo console comes out in March of Q1, maybe Sony and Microsoft are saying holiday season 2025. I mean, that's a year and a half away. That's
You can
enough
say
time.
that all you want. John's opinions do not reflect that of the Game Deflators.
Yes, I do. I'm on the Game Deflators. So we'll see what happens, but I can see Nintendo or Xbox and Sony like trying to take that win out of sales by a holiday season sale in 2025 for a handheld console.
All right.
I could see it happening. I'm not saying it's going to, but I could see it happening if they want to really compete truly with Nintendo. Dude, the thing is, you can't try and release a handheld console 2 to 3 years into an adoption period of Nintendo and expect that it's not going to fall flat on its face.
Yeah.
You got to look at things like the DS track record and then it going into the 3DS and then the 3DS XL and all of that. Nintendo already had the handheld market before Sony was like, let's throw in the Vita so it can epically fail in this market. Too much adoption. Nobody's going to buy another handheld just because they want to buy a Sony handheld.
No, but I feel like Xbox compared to Sony probably has a lot more ability and drive to create more of a competitive environment on a handheld, just because Sony is so focused on like the PlayStation 5, like they can't even fully support their own VR. Like they've never given any of their side things that they've tried to do outside of their main console really enough support to get them over the hump into being like massively adopted thing.
Well, I've got one word for you to talk about how Microsoft has been competitive in the past with certain products when there's been a high adoption rate already, and that is the Zune. If you remember that little device.
Oh, I had this.
Oh yeah, you probably had the Zune, but not a whole lot of people did, and that ended up being a catastrophe by the end of its life cycle. Nobody bought it. Like you bought it, but not many people did.
Well, yeah, but so that's...
But you have to consider...
No, but that's totally different. What I'm talking about here is that Microsoft is so driven by like putting out games and titles of all different kind of like levels that they would be able to service probably better through Game Pass on like a handheld device. Whereas like, okay, is Sony going to like...
Well, they got the PlayStation Plus
strong enough now. I'm still thinking in the past. I'm thinking of when like Sony needed to make like, here's the PSP version of the game and here's the actual version of the game, and
they're set. They've got it now. Like they can do it.
Scales better because of the power.
Yep.
So I don't know.
They've got a subscription service just like Microsoft. I think it's going to come down to adoption and a consumer's willingness to spend hundreds of dollars on another handheld console when they've already got one for Nintendo and potentially have a home console of like Sony or Xbox.
Yeah, I guess how many portable consoles do you need?
Yeah, there's so many already. And if it's not like, and here's the other thing, it's not like you can't get Game Pass on one of his other consoles, right?
No, yeah, so that's the thing. It's like Microsoft can make the best version of the handheld, but you can still buy all their games on every handheld, so they don't need to
put it out there.
Yeah,
like that's a weird thing too. It's like you can make that piece of hardware, but is it necessary, and are people going to buy it? And that goes back to my point on like, the what do you call it, Apple devices back then, right? Like you didn't need to buy a Zune because Apple already had the market. And on top of that, there were already secondary companies making MP3 players. They weren't as good, but like Sony had one. You had one from, I think, RCA back then. Like tons of companies had small MP3 players that could store however much music. You didn't need the Zune back then. And just like today, you're not going to need a Microsoft handheld device because there's already so many options in the market. A PlayStation one might survive because of
but
exclusivity
Microsoft
on games.
Probably sell you one for...
They can probably sell cheaper.
$700.
That's true. They could do, from an affordability aspect, they could definitely hammer home on that. So
and
something to keep an eye on.
It better than anybody else could because they make Windows.
Yeah.
Like they could just say, you know what? We're going to make a new version of Windows
just for our
It's
handheld.
Just going to work on ours. And if you want to deal with all the Windows 11 stuff on all the other ones, go ahead.
That
but
actually
also,
would be a game changer.
Every one of those consoles they have to get like the ability to put Windows on there. So they're paying Microsoft for every one of those consoles that the competitors make anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
anyways, let's
something to
move
pay
on.
attention to. Yeah, let's move on. Last thing here, before we dive into inflation deflation, is the Power World dev has said that talk of player drop off is lazy and it's fine to take breaks from games. And this is Rich Stanton at PC Gamer. So I agree. I mean, it's people. Power World was not expected to be the phenomenon that it is today,
And
right?
it's not even fully released.
I guess, yeah,
It's
technically
a
not.
beta still.
So, like, the game has sold millions of copies. You had concurrent players in, I think, the 2 million range for a while, and now it's dropped. I don't know the exact percentage right now.
Yeah.
And this article is a few days old, so it's probably dropped since then too. Point being, though, they're still in like the top 5 for like concurrent gamers on the game. So that in itself is amazing for this title. A title that people were thinking, oh, it's going to have like 50,000 players at one time. No, like it's blowing that out the water. So like any sort of dip makes sense. It's the same with Pokemon. Like if somebody picks up a Pokemon game and they say, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and play Pokemon. Once they beat, all of the gym leaders and capture whatever they want, they put it down and they stop.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
the
small
same manner
percentage
here.
of people who just grind out Pokemon
Yeah.
after you beat it.
But this has so much more with, the base building and the survival aspects and the capturing and the killing of enemies. Plus, you've got your boss battles. You've got this giant world to explore, the open world atmosphere. They're going to be putting in more updates. They're going to be putting in more content down the road. It's only a matter of time. So they plan on supporting this long term. And the idea here is that while, yes, players have dropped, they're hoping that as new content releases, more players will come back to play the game. That's really all it comes down to. And it's like that with any online game. You're going to have a massive peak when it first comes out, and then it's going to drop down and settle out to where it's going to be for a while. And, the hope here for them is that they can go many years with a nice concurrent player base of, a set, let's just say 100,000 players ongoing for however long. And that's what they support.
Yeah. And this is all coming from Bucky. He is Pocket Pair's community manager. But also listed as a designer and did some localization. But it's good to see somebody, at a game company admitting that and not just being like, oh, yeah, we want to maximize engagement and keep everybody just playing our game. Like they understand, hey, we have a game. It's still not even like fully released. It's got a bunch of stuff you can do in it. And we love everybody who's playing. We love everybody who bought the game and has played. And we hope as many people, come back or more in the future. Like that is a good attitude to have. And it's respectful of the players and their time. This isn't like some crazy live service game where you're going to be spending all this money and all of your time. This is just like a fun game to play. And I really appreciate that. I thought this was a good article to check out just kind of for that sentiment. And also just, it's good to reinforce just leaving games. Like, you don't have to finish a game. Nobody needs to give you a hard time about not finishing games. It's perfectly acceptable to just play a game for a while and then leave it alone, whether it's for some yearly challenge or not.
Leave it to you to twist this whole article. This man was saying that people will come back to Power World. You're saying just leave it entirely in the past.
I will play Persona 4 again one day, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ryan will be like 80 years old and having some kid come.
Did it.
Yeah, he's going to use his Social Security income, if that even exists anymore, to pay some kid to come play Persona for him in front of his TV as he watches. Says, "I beat it, John.
Beat it. I watched the Let's Play live. That counts."
I will say you did beat Pokemon.
I did.
You did go back and beat Pokemon. So you could surprise us for sure. But we will still shun you for not beating games. That's just how it goes here.
Well,
All right.
You know what else surprised me? And I also didn't beat Tailspin for the NES.
So Tailspin was developed by Capcom. It was published by Capcom. It was produced by Stephen L. Butler. And it was released in December of 1991. It is a scrolling shooter. Ryan says that there's not a lot of reviews out there, but it's generally pretty difficult. And that is actually true.
Yep.
So you can dive into synopsis real quick.
Synopsis. So, John, I don't know how familiar you are with Tailspin. Are you at all?
Isn't it tied to DuckTales?
No.
I thought, isn't the guy that like Tailspin, isn't he the one that like
Jungle Book?
Is this Baloo from Jungle Book? I
Yeah.
thought it was familiar. No, I didn't really dive
You
into it.
thought
I
that was
just own it.
Launchpad McQuack?
That's right.
No.
Launchpad
So,
McQuack. Yeah, dude, I'm so
Tailspin,
bad with these things. I didn't even watch DuckTales as a kid, so it's like that bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tailspin was a very odd show. Jungle Book was like my favorite Disney movie as a kid.
Where the
So
hell did
this-
Baloo get a plane from?
Yeah, so this takes all of the animals from the Jungle Book and turns them into like mid-century sky pirates and delivery people, and they're all like anthropomorphized people that wear clothes and fly planes, and it's a pretty wild show. I had a lot of good memories of it, and I'd never heard of this game, but you fly around as Baloo in his Sea Duck. You shoot down planes and anything else in your way, collecting cargo and money along your path, defeating bosses at the end of each level, upgrading your ship as you go.
This bear went from singing about the bare necessities and protecting a man boy to taking the planes of man.
Yep. When they decide, you gave them fire, and now look what they've done.
Exactly. Yeah. What's his name? Shere Khan? Is that the name of the
He's
Shere Khan?
like a businessman
Yeah.
in this show, and he's like very sketchy. He's not like the actual bad guy, but he's like very bad guy adjacent and shifty. I don't know. He's it's a cool little piece of history. Go back and watch it if you like old cartoons.
I kind of have to now. Is it on Disney Plus by chance?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay. I might have to actually watch this. I didn't know this thing existed. I thought Tailspin was just a game.
Some game. No,
I just thought it
licensed
was a
title.
game. I didn't realize that this whole time. Well, I learned something new, and so did our listeners. That learned something new about me not keeping up with the trends, I guess. All right, so I liked it, dude. I thought it was a blast. Play this game
Hard
for
as
me.
hell.
Yeah, it's hard, but like it depends on what you find difficult. So it takes some. It's like any Nintendo game, man. It's Nintendo hard at that point. Like Ryan said, you go around shooting various planes, collecting. It looked like gas containers, but it turns out those were like cargo loads, and then dollar sign bags, which is your money, and then you can actually shoot like random areas to collect additional dollar bags. And then of course there are fruits and things that you can collect along the way to gather points. And your plane is able to shoot like at the start, at least like once every like second and a half, you can shoot, with your plane to knock down planes
in all 8 directions.
Yeah, you can shoot in multiple directions.
Like heading that direction that you start flying.
Well, and the cool thing about this game is that you have the ability to like flip the plane and go upside down, and it literally starts side scrolling. So instead of going your standard left to right, it actually allows you to go back. Now, the caveat to that, though, is enemies respawn when you do that. So you actually can make it more difficult on yourself pending the situation. So I got as far as like midway through the second level, I'll say. With this, I was able to beat the submarine in the first level.
I can't imagine how.
It's actually not that hard when you think about it. So did you get to the submarine?
Oh, a bunch of times, and I was never able to kill it. Most of the time I got to the submarine, I was lucky if I got there with 2 hearts.
It's patterned. It's all patterned. So you stay low, you shoot like 3-4 times right away. Like you just keep shooting as much as you can. It shoots those like the several like cannonballs out. But if you notice, there's a huge gap between the one that's lower and then the others like spraying across the top. You just go up and then you continue shooting. You drop back down really quick, continue shooting. It raises up all those missiles. And you literally just do the same thing. You go up, the missiles go under you, you continue shooting, and then you make your way across because it gets closer to you. And then the same rinse and repeat process. Shoot a few times, you dodge the one cannonball, you shoot some more, you dodge all the other missiles, shoot some more, and then it blows up. It's like really quick.
Patient enough, I guess.
Yeah. Now, there is some timing that's necessary in this game. So you do have, in this case, there was like this submarine helicopter thing that would come up, and they were just like ridiculous. They would just chase you and run into you like it was hard. So you had to time it perfectly to shoot them down. Like as you're staying,
as popped in front of you, you were
dead. Oh yeah. If a box popped in front of you, you're screwed. And that happened to me. Like legit, the game was just trying to be dumb. I had a box pop in front of me like 6 times on that scene. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
The problem is if you shoot the box, your next shot is not going to be reloaded in time to be able to kill the thing before it rams into you. And you only get like 3 hits.
Now, the importance of like this game too is collect as much of the money as you can, as much of the loads as you can. as much as the fruit and all of that stuff, because at the end of a level, you have the ability to upgrade your plane through like faster shooting or a better engine, little things of that nature. But they're expensive. They're like $300,000. The extra plane was like 100,000, and then there was like a continue state, like an extra continue. I think it was like 200,000.
Oh my
So you
God.
kind of have to be wise of how you use that money and how you grab it. But the second level was at a baseball stadium, which was annoying as shit. Like it was so bad. So you have a guy that's like launching baseballs at you from a machine. You have to knock him out, and then there's like a plane that launches tiny homing planes tiny homing planes to hit you. And so you're trying to hit those at the same time as the baseball guy flinging baseballs your way.
Man.
And you're trying to knock out the big plane that's releasing the homing planes the whole time. So like that was just ridiculous. So I got through, I don't know how much. And I was like, all right, I'm out of continues. I'm done. Like finished up. But all of that said, I thought it was a lot of fun going through that. That's a game that I could see like honestly grinding out and getting better at to progress through.
It's only like a 25-minute game or something.
There's like, yeah, I can see that. It's like 8 stages in total. So it's more so, it goes back to the timing aspect. It goes back to being patient with a game like this. Is it possible to hit those homing planes and get them knocked out right away? Absolutely. But you got to know like, where on the screen do I need to be so that when that comes into existence, I can knock it out right away with a couple shots. And that's really how you have to look at games like this. Is it's all about patterns. It's all about understanding the level and the next step and what's going to come on screen. And the same with the boss battles. There's nothing like with a lot of these older games, there's not a whole lot of like crazy randomization into what's happening. It's all very much the same. You just have to understand what you're playing and how you need to progress in beating those bosses and enemies. And it's really a matter of like sitting back and taking the time to grind it out.
Patience and execution.
Yeah, there's a reason that people can grind through like 10 NES games in a week and have no issue, because they're short, they're quick, and it just takes patience and persistence to beat them. So, and once you start getting like the hang of that with NES games, it usually can translate to other games that you play on the console.
They're only testing so many things with you.
Yeah, I personally don't play a whole lot of NES. I'll play more Super Nintendo, if anything, when it comes to older consoles. And I just don't get used to the timing elements and all of that for NES. So that's typically why when I go in this, I'm like, yeah, it's super difficult because I'm not always playing NES games. I'm playing, Power World and Tales of Symphonia right now.
Yeah,
I'm not in this like side-scrolling mode of like trying to time enemies on screen. And it, if I was, then I'd probably be pretty good at it. But I just have not been playing those games for a long time.
So. Yeah, never really been my cup of tea. It was fun. It was a good looking game. There was a lot to enjoy there. Breaking it down to brass tacks. Complete in-box copy will run you $80. That peaked at $134.99 back in December of 2022. That is currently trending down. Loose price will run you $16.90. That peaked at $24.97 back in February of 22. And that is trending down now as well. I would say, NES game, maybe something that's not like super common. Like, I don't know. How do you think there's like just a ton of these games floating around?
I don't think so. I don't know. Tailspin's like a super popular game back then. It's a licensed title. And here's the thing, like, it's a good licensed title.
It's unique.
It's not bad. It's actually good.
What do you think about $15?
I mean, like, here's the deal, man. It went as high as $25 in February of 2022. It's obviously a few years removed, but like, if you had a nice pristine copy float your way at $20, it'd be worth it at $20 to get a nice pristine copy. If you found a dirty old loose copy that still ran, yeah, absolutely buy it for $15. So I think, $16.90 I think is right. But
just right.
Well, hold on. I would actually say it's deflated. I think that I would be willing to buy this game for $20 if it came across my way. A nice copy, I'd buy it for $20.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's still very affordable for a game like this, and I think that it's enough fun that you can get out of it, especially when you consider things like speed runs and you consider points and the playability. Like, I played for maybe 45 minutes today. And if you start, it goes back to that movie conversation, right? If you go out to go see a movie and the dollar's tied to go have that little bit of enjoyment, if you could spend 3 hours of time playing this game, getting good at it and beating it, it's totally worth the $20 to do it.
Yeah, I would say, multiple stages, like trying to get upgrades, the ability to turn the plane around is kind of unique. It's definitely different than a lot of NES games, I think. So I'll go with you. I'll go deflated. I'll say $20 would be a fair price.
Sounds good. All right, so I think next week, because we're going to be getting together, most likely, as far as it stands right now, we're going to be getting together next week. So we have two options, though. We could play the Silent Hill game, or could play Foam Stars.
Well, we'll
Just
figure
saying,
it out.
There's a few options on the table. Maybe we play both, and then we talk about one the following week. We'll see.
Okay.
All right. Well, this has been episode 274 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.